Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the PokerNews podcast. I'm your girl, Sarah Herring, joined by two of my very favorite people in poker. Let's just bury the hatchet, Jeff. Jeff Platt and Chad Holloway. Yeah. Are you down? Can we just put this beef behind us?
Oh man, that is quite the question. But yeah, I came into today open to any ideas that you may have had. So I think, I think we can bury the hatchet, go back to being best friends.
Here's what's happening, you guys. I'm going to be moving next week. I'm not on the show. And so I know that if we don't bury this hatchet now, if I don't hand it over, it's just going to be talking shit about Sarah next week. But also, Jeff, I do miss you. I saw you did a little photo shoot with Haley. I don't know how to say her last name, but she's very...
Or Haley Ocho, yeah.
Very attractive, very talented photographer. I saw you did a little photo shoot with her. You were looking super professional, and I was just hoping I could, get back in your good graces before you abandon us all for ESPN or something more big time.
For my huge Twitch daily talk show that will launch Monday, October 19th. I mean, it'll probably shatter Twitch viewership records. That's why I'm doing the podcast today. I'm hoping you two will watch and maybe double the audience that I might have. So you're good, Sarah. You and I are good. Chad, you and I are good. Chad, you and Sarah and I are good. I think everybody's good. We're the three best friends that anybody could have.
Best poker buddies for life. Best mates. And okay, so you guys, Jeff made the outline. I was looking over the outline and everything this morning. And this is going to be, I feel like, an episode that I'm going to really personally enjoy because it's just like a bunch of dirty, nasty shit talking and gossip and just... we're gonna just put it all out there for you guys. We're of course talking primarily about the Negreanu and Polk feud, which has exploded over the last weekish, 2 weeks on the poker Twitter, which is known for being notoriously gross to begin with. Anyways, we're gonna talk to Kevin Martin, who you guys will know from Big Brother Canada fame, and also from being a fantastic streamer and just a really great, awesome person with a great smile and a great voice, just saying. But we talked, he's gonna get engaged, I'm married. It's fair to talk like this about people, guys, without it having to go sexy every time, right? Handsome guy, great smile. We also talked to Kevin Kooi, who I will also say has a fantastic smile, who is the other half of the Nanonoko stream team for the Super Millions Tuesday going on every week on GG Poker. You may or may not also know that he is a former WCG player and also a StarCraft streamer and player currently. So no big deal. We've got a couple of great interviews up for you guys. Now, Chad, I've kept us on the gallery view because I felt like you were kind of, being left out of the mix here in the beginning. So why don't you kick us off with a little update on what's been going down with Midway Poker Tour?
Yeah, if anybody listened to last week's episode, we really broke down the situation of what happened on the inaugural and likely last Midway Poker Tour just less than 2 weeks ago. It wasn't good. There was a whole payout debacle. Definitely go back and listen to that episode if you want the full breakdown. As to what's happened in the last week, unfortunately, it's not really good news. The Midway Poker Tour, which is led and founded by Dan Bekovic, had said they're going to try to make players whole. They did make some steps in doing that. So over the past week, I've confirmed that they have paid back 16 or made whole 16 of the players. There's 3 others that I'm pretty confident they also made whole. I've just been unable to confirm that. So we're looking at 19 of the 31 players, leaving a dozen players who haven't been made whole. And unfortunately, those dozen players, most of them are kind of the big money winners. And, we're talking the top 3 spots, a bunch of the final table list. It's looking like, according to my calculations and what I've been able to piece together, they did make players whole to the tune of about $10,000, a lot of the min cashers and what have you. But about $50,000 is still owed to make all these players whole. And it sounded like they were going to try to do that at first. Unfortunately, over the past week, it seems to have changed a little bit. Now, they didn't say anything different. The last thing we heard, they're still going to try to make players whole. The problem is we haven't heard anything in the past week. The tours went silent. Their website has went down, disappeared. Nothing on social media. None of the final table lists have heard had communications with Dan Bekovic or anyone from the tour. I haven't either. I've made numerous attempts to reach out and make contact, and so it seems to me they're kind of going to ground right now, if you will, which is very unfortunate. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully there's some stuff behind the scenes taking place that I don't know about, and but it's certainly not encouraging when it's just radio silence. And I wish I had more of an update, but like I said, I'm just not hearing things. I've sent out emails to the Attorney General's office there in Illinois. I've got a little bit of a runaround there as far as, oh, you should talk to this person. I'll forward your email there. But these are COVID times, so you might not hear back from, very quickly. That's been about a week I've been waiting. I've also been making contact with the charity. Had a little bit of back and forth, but they haven't been quick to get back to me either. And so, I'm not, it's not much of anything going right now, which is very unfortunate.
It seems so bizarre to make it right for some players and then kind of like stop part of the way through. Because if you're really just gonna, like, if you're gonna already tarnish your reputation and probably like smoke bomb on the season, like just keep that extra like couple G's or however much they ended up paying out anyways, right? Like that just doesn't make sense.
So I think this is my theory on it is, so a lot of information has surfaced since the debacle went down about, especially Dan Bekovic. Haley Hintz did an excellent piece that really dived into kind of his history and some pending lawsuits that he has outside of the poker world. We can just say some sketchy business practices, if you will. And it was also that Dan Bekovic, along with some others, ran a club on Poker Bros, which of course is an unregulated site that a lot of Americans play on. There's different clubs. Sometimes they join player pools together. And what we ended up learning was that as part of the registration process at the Midway Poker Tour stop, they were requiring players to sign up for Poker Bros or to join their club. And that's a no-no. And Poker Bros found out about it and suspended or shut down their club, which had about 3,000 members from what I have been told. And with 3,000 members, that's a pretty big club. And there were some pretty big games. And it's totally speculation. I've asked around, like, what sort of money are you talking about with 3,000 players? And I've asked some other club owners that have these sort of clubs, and they said they wouldn't have been surprised if we're talking in excess of $1 million, possibly more. And so that just getting shut down, what happens is, these are unregulated. This isn't like they're, it's not a great, safe ecosystem. So a lot of the money is, where is it? It sounds like some players haven't been getting paid back. It sounds to me like they had hoped to use some money from the online arm of their operations to pay back these live players, which might be kind of akin to, stealing from Peter to pay Paul, or whatever that old saying goes. I don't know, but I do know that when Poker Bros shut down their online operations last week is about the same time that the radio silence began, that players stopped hearing that they might be getting paid back, that players did stop being paid back, and that I haven't heard anything from anybody from Midway. So, there's a lot of rumors, a lot of speculation, but the timing of it all certainly seems like there might be a connection there, which is very unfortunate for the live players who did cash in this poker tour stop.
Well, when the Global Poker Awards goes down in 2021, I think we all know that Chad Holloway will be walking home with a gold for his work on the Midway Poker Tour scandal and story.
I mean, obviously winning an American or a Global Poker Award is always great, as you two know. But I mean, to win one in 2020, the shit year of just all what's going on in 2020, man. Yeah, it's what a year. And we're going to get into more of it this episode. And it's the middle of October right now, so we've only got 2.5 more months before the clock runs out on what is just really just a wild year.
Yeah.
And only Sarah would know what it's like to win a Global Poker Award. I just just let the record show that.
Let the record reflect.
You know how it feels to get nominated, Jeff. I haven't been in that territory yet, so.
God, and you have the Postle reporting also. Like, you're just a stone cold lock for Journalist of the Year. on October 14th.
Sarah, to be fair, okay, I did technically get one nomination, but it was for another podcast that I did, you might recall, the LFG podcast with Jamie Kerstetter, which is no more. It's a no more podcast, but we did get nominated our first year. So I guess technically I did get nominated once. We did not win, but we got
did not receive. Hashtag did not receive. That's fine. I got nominated like 40 times before I received, and that's what you have to do. If you want to, you got to put in the work, Shine. You've got to get at least about 10 noms.
You're like the Leonardo DiCaprio, right?
That's what I kept referring to myself as. If you listened to the podcast before you were on hosting, you would know that that was my name. Hashtag did not receive. Hashtag Leonardo DiCaprio of poker. Yep. But Leo also finally got his award. So now I'm just following suit. Oh gosh, they're messaging me about crazy things. All right, so before we get too deep into it, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors, GG Poker. I did in fact reach out to them to give us some sort of like a cool audio clip, maybe of Daniel talking or something, because they have a lot of really interesting, cool promotions going on right now. But instead, we just decided to say thank you to GG Poker for all of their support and love, and to talk to Kevin Vanderkoy, and who also, by the way, goes by Rotterdam 08. You might know him more as that, and Kevin Martin. So we will get to them very soon, but I don't want to go too far without first getting just balls deep into this Twitter debacle, which has us all very much on either side of the fence. And I saw an interesting tweet, which I thought was pretty spot on actually, that said, it's basically like the presidential sort of election series, or like any other divisive sort of topic, where those people who already liked Daniel like him even more, and hate Polk even more, and vice versa. Polk fans just hate D-Negs even more. It's almost like this is just affirmation, polarizing affirmation for whatever side of the fence you're on. So let's just start with trying to think where to begin. Jeff, why don't you kind of I think most of the audience will have a little bit of an idea of what's going on, and that they have this grudge match coming up. But what sort of instigated this most recent Twitter explosion?
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. So just as a quick reminder, as I bring Buddy into the mix, who keeps jumping up and going crazy because people are mowing the lawn, which they're allowed to do, which is totally cool. So for those of you who are brand new to this, Daniel Negreanu and Doug Polk have effectively agreed to play 25,000 hands of heads-up poker. The stakes might go back and forth a little bit, but for short, they've agreed to this massive heads-up match that should start in November. Now, the latest controversy is probably a bit too strong of a word, but the latest issue that they had revolved around the using or not using of pre-flop charts. And Daniel Negreanu said, I'm completely against this. I don't want Doug using these pre-flop charts. I think Negreanu had misunderstood perhaps what Polk wanted to use pre-flop charts for. When we think of pre-flop charts, us simple poker players, it just says, if you have this hand, you raise. If you have this hand, you fold. And that's it as far as pre-flop action is concerned. I think Negreanu is concerned with Polk's use of these really advanced pre-flop charts that could build a game tree of sorts, which says, okay, if you have the ace-5 of spade, ace-5 suited pre, you need to raise 62% of the time, and on these kind of flops, you see bet this, and on this kind of turn, you block. So it basically lays out his entire hand. Negreanu is obviously against that. He's saying, I'm this huge underdog. Heads up, no limit hold'em is Doug Polk's game. He might be the very best heads up, no limit hold'em player in the world, so I don't want you to use pre-flop charts. They went back and forth about this on Twitter, and I'll just highlight a couple of tweets, like some of the more interesting, the more dramatic tweets, Sarah, just for you. So after Negreanu had responded to Sean Deep, who is also on Doug Polk's side, just like, whatever, let him use the pre-flop charts. Negreanu saying, just sit down, play poker, make all your decisions on your own. It's quite simple. And then Doug Polk responds and says, a week ago, you didn't care about using pre-flop ranges or not. Now you are completely up in arms that they are cheating. You are such a little bitch. I cannot wait to clean you out. To which Negreanu responded, now, Dougie, stay classy. The match is on as long as you agree to, number one, absolutely no charts or assistance during play. You can look at them before and after sessions, of course. And number two, I, being Negreanu, will agree to showing hole cards for a portion of the match live at the PokerGo studio. Polk later tweeted, "Let's get this straight. I only retired from poker one time. I didn't play a single hand after that. The only reason I'm back in the streets is because a complete dolt wants to ship me $1 million. There are more tweets. There are more tweets from Negreanu. They have agreed on not using these kind of pre-flop charts. Polk was upset for a little bit. Negreanu was upset at Polk for a little bit. But again, and we said this last week, it does seem like they do have a deal in place. Polk versus Negreanu starting on November the 1st on WSOP.com, heads up to 25,000 hands. So I do think that we are good to go. They're both depositing $1 million, which is the max deposit into WSOP.com. Kane Callis was the agreed upon commentator for this heads up match, which I think is a great call. He's a terrific player, terrific commentator as well. I think he's very unbiased. He'll be right down the middle. And then some of that action will be shown on Poker Go. So that was the biggest, issue of the week. And then Norman Chad, for whatever reason, decided to get involved. He says, Doug Polk and Real Kid Poker, any chance you all could switch to texting for the rest of your toxic negotiations? You fellas really taint the Twitter timeline of innocent people trying to get through the pandemic, the election, and climate change without further emotional damage. He went back and forth at it with Negreanu. Negreanu says, you are proof that it is never too late in life to be a committed online troll, before delivering the block to Norman Chad. So Negreanu blocks Norman Chad on Twitter, which is a nice side note to this wonderful story that we have going on. Whew! Okay. Yeah. That's kind of it, I guess. Maybe I missed some things. I don't know.
Okay, there's more side notes too, by the way. And I do want to mention that I went back and trying to understand this Norman Chad, Daniel Negreanu beef. And apparently it may or may not have started when Daniel Negreanu said in one of his vlogs that whenever Lon McCarran and Norman Chad are commentating on the WSOP, that he turns it on mute, which is kind of funny. I'm just going to say, and I love Lon and I also love Norman, but okay, I think it's funny. A little tear came when I read that. So Chad, first of all, just to get your, we're talking about having Kane, someone sort of unbiased, come into this space and take a look at it. You, from your unbiased journalism, stance, what do you think? What's going on here? Are they both crazy? Is one really being extra and the other one's being a little more pragmatic and normal? What's happening?
Did I just hear a car horn blaring on somebody's end? I heard a big.
I think it was me, but I did hear a horn somewhere.
Yeah, it was my printer. Someone's sending me a fax. Literally, it's a
you have one of those
over here.
Yeah,
it's the fax machine. Yeah.
Back to your question, Sarah. It was. I'm not a huge fan of it, to be honest. I get enough toxicity right now with the election, with the politics that is going on, and I feel that this just has that same kind of flavor. Doesn't seem to be much fun about this. It's not in good spirits. You take a challenge like the Galfond challenge right now with Chance Kornuth. This is between two well-respected players who have respect for one another. And, that's kind of fun. You got the high stakes duel that we see right now with Antonio Esfandiari and Phil Hellmuth, who do have, they're like frenemies, right? They do give it a back and forth to each other a little bit, but it's not pure hatred, which it is between Polk and Negreanu. And I'm not all about it. I'll probably keep atop of the match. It's in the industry. It's a big story that I'm working with, but I'm not exactly excited about it. I kind of feel like that Negreanu allowed Polk to pull him down into the mud. And now it's, these two are getting dirty. And some people like that. You got your fans of Negreanu, you've got your fans of Polk. And I can understand that. You're rooting for your man, you're excited about it. As somebody like myself who's in the middle and have respect for both what Doug Polk has done throughout his career in the poker industry and for what Negreanu does, I would just, prefer that these guys find a way to work together somehow to do something better for the poker community instead of working so far apart and, trying to one-up each other. But I don't think that's ever going to happen. They're both mentioned in the Mike Postle lawsuit, among others. And, maybe you think that might help them, let's combine our forces to fight this common foe sort of thing. But that certainly hasn't happened. I don't know. It's just,
And also like, oh my gosh, like we should all like come together and fight our common enemies. Like I just fully fell asleep on that, Chad. No,
Sarah would
I know.
hate that.
thank you.
Sarah would hate that.
No, like come on, let's keep this spice going. And so then here's where stuff gets really juicy, right? So then Polk just straight fires a shot at Berkey, right?
Yeah,
Who's like,
out of the blue.
my boy, I love Berkey. I feel like Berkey's just one of these commonly openly loved people in the poker community for being someone who kind of, you know, like really puts himself out there, is pretty, you know, real and legit. Although people have definitely hated on him before for like some of his things during commentary, but actually I can remember when he very first jumped into the super high roller bowl, like 300K. I think it was the very first one, might have been the second, but when he jumped in and everyone just was like, his style is so unorthodox. He's just such a really like interesting player. So for me, the fact that big high stakes players are, you know, hating on Berkey's style doesn't surprise me. I think he has a very unusual, but clearly also fun and profitable style. But does anyone know where this like Berkey Polk thing came from? And did Berkey respond?
Yes, Berkey did respond. So Doug Polk tweeted, "It has come to my attention that Berkey plays high stakes on WSOP. My schedule just opened up." So that, to me, Sarah, seemed to be out of the blue. Perhaps Berkey had mentioned something about Doug Polk and the Polk Negreanu match during his vlogcast, the Solve for Why vlogcast that he does with Christian Soto, and maybe Doug Polk was alerted to that, but he wasn't responding to a tweet or anything of the sort. So I'm not sure what the deal was. I know that Berkey did respond to Polk, and I'm trying to pull that up right now. He says, "Man, whoever hurt you as a kid must have been a wretched person. I'm sorry you went through whatever trauma has turned you into this. It's not your fault." And so that opened the door. You know, Christian Soto jumped into the mix, and then Soto and Polk went at it a little bit. Everybody kind of going at it with Doug Polk. And Sarah, you said this to start. You know, going into all of this, you were probably either way on the Negreanu side or way on the Polk side. I get the sense, and maybe it's too small of a sample size, that with this pre-flop charts issue and with the whining that came from Doug Polk as a huge favorite in this match, that a lot more people are coming over to the Negreanu side of things. I mean, I saw Sean Deeb vehemently agree with Doug Polk and take his side, which we of course expect when you have the name Daniel Negreanu in something and Sean Deeb in something. But everybody else, again, at least from what I saw, you guys might have seen differently, everybody else was really seemed to be on the side of Negreanu for all of this.
But wait, do we need a little disclosure statement in here that says, also Jeff Platt, personal friends with Daniel Negreanu and Amanda Leatherman?
Yes. I mean, you know, I probably understood by now, very friendly with the Negreanus. Don't mean to brag. It's just, you know, stating the facts after Sarah brought it up. So I've admitted, like, I'm rooting for Daniel Negreanu in this one. No question about it. But I really have seen on Twitter people, at least on this issue of the pre-flop charts, shift their stance towards Negreanu.
What do you think about the pre-flop charts, Chad?
I was shocked that it was even an issue, because I don't think it's something that should be even considered. Like, it kind of blew my mind. Like, really, they want to have charts available when playing one another? Like, yeah. It seems like such a blatant violation or something. Like, I would never want to play against somebody having all that information. Like, oh, well, Jeff, you want to play heads up? Let's use real-time solvers. It just takes away. Right. It takes away, all the fun and the skill of you as a poker player in the inside. You're using outside assistance. I 100% agree that it shouldn't be used, and I was surprised that it was really ever up for consideration. And that's just both from a player perspective, but also from like a fan perspective. Like, if I knew these guys were looking at charts and using that to assist them, it's not as exciting to me. It makes me lose a little bit of respect for their games, kind of. And you know, maybe that's the way it was done for Doug Polk and other online players. I'm sure it was. Like, when they're playing, they can have this assistance, but it seems like there is more of an emphasis on it in this day and age, especially with the real-time solver issues that we've been reading about and reporting on over the last several weeks. It's just online poker right now, there's a magnifying glass on it, right? Because there's no live poker because of the pandemic. And so I think a lot of these issues that, maybe once it was okay to do these things online are now being reevaluated. And for me, like pre-flop charts, especially in a big match like this, yeah, definitely not a big fan.
Fair enough. Well, we've got some other duels, if you will, as we mentioned, Phil Hellmuth and Antonio Esfandiari, which we will talk about when we come back from our interview segments. But I want to throw it to Kevin Martin. We're going to just like flip the script a little bit. We've been a little toxic. We've got a little juicy drama. We're going to invite Kevin Martin to the show, a streamer who is someone I've really just enjoyed interviewing and getting to know over the years, and someone who has a pretty exciting announcement courtesy of GG. Hello, everybody. I am with my boy, Kevin Martin, who we were just discussing, we have to catch up with each other like every year and a half-ish, something like that. We like to make a long form, kind of like sit down, get to know each other every year and a half or so. So first of all, Kevin, wherever you are, it is spectacular. Where are you? What are you doing?
Yeah, well, it's my girlfriend's birthday, and by birthday, it's a birth month. We're talking about this. My girlfriend, she's behind me laughing over there.
Hearts everywhere are breaking right now, by the way.
Birthday's a 24-hour event. You wake up, it's your birthday, you go to your you go to bed, your birthday's over. But I've been introduced to the birthday month, and apparently this is a thing where the entire month revolves around you because it's your birthday. So we're out here celebrating. Yeah, life is good. Very blessed.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's lucky for you. I'm glad that you can be welcomed into the circle. For those of us who have vaginas, which is a very small percentage of the PokerNews audience, I'll let you guys know this is how it works for all of us. Birthday month, at a minimum birthday week. Because what if your birthday falls on like a Tuesday? It's like, get out of here. Like, you're not celebrating on the Saturday and Sunday following, and maybe the Saturday, Sunday before. I'm with you. I really think it's important to, acknowledge each other's births. I'm glad that you were born. When were you born, Kevin?
93, early 90s. What a time that was.
You're kidding me, right? You were born in
No,
1993?
me and my girlfriend, we're facing 30 right in the face here in the next couple of years.
Oh my gosh, this is killing me. I'm becoming the old person in the poker world. That's fine. All right, I accept. Well, we just saw some very exciting news that, I think GG really seems to be on the forefront of a lot of movements that I hope to see sort of cascading all around poker. But one of them, I think, has been choosing people to partner with that are really people of quality, and also people who have some very interesting backstories and interesting poker stories to bring to the table. So I'm fairly certain that everyone already knows who you are. But just in case they don't, can you, Kevin, give a little taster to the audience here about your very interesting poker and life story? Like, give me like the 5-minute version.
Yeah, we can speed it up even faster than that. If you guys don't know anything about me, I am a person who gets obsessed with activities, and poker is one of them. I've done a little bit of everything. If you guys haven't seen me streaming on Twitch, my 20s has been filled with poker, reality television. I've done a little bit of that, and yeah, I stream and play poker full time. And the interesting thing about my story was I kind of just started. I kind of just turned on the camera as a pure beginner and I was like, oh, let's see how it goes. And it was wild. It was wild. We've gone through some ups and downs or whatever, but people got really invested in my story because they saw me, making some not correct poker decisions, but having fun with it, enjoying the game, and then they've been able to enjoy my journey. So we've been grinding it out the last 5 years. That's a little bit about me. I really got into golf this year. I didn't know so many poker players play golf as well. Do you golf, Sarah?
I don't, but I will say it's interesting how many weird things I think there are randomly a lot of crossover with poker. And I will say my goal for my daughter is that she be a golfer. So maybe you can give me the, I don't know anything about it. But.
That's a good sport. If you can if you can raise her, she can be on the, the tour or whatever. I think golf is like a really cerebral game, and just like poker is. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. And then, I mean, my girlfriend, we're having her birthday. I'm turning 28 right away. 30's coming up. And then we got, well, who knows? There's a lot of adventures to get to.
Yeah, then you can teach your own kids how to golf and all that. Yeah. Well, the semi-recent champion of Big Brother, reality TV, I feel like that's probably what a lot of people in the regular world know from you and know about you. But in the poker world, you are a beloved streamer. And for exactly the reasons you mentioned, I think that's one of the things that I have enjoyed the most about this sort of movement of streamers, if you will, and a lot of the poker powerhouse is realizing that streamers are actually what people want to see. Vloggers, YouTubers, people want to know people and know their stories, not just know really good poker players.
For sure.
That doesn't mean that you're not a really good poker player, though, Kevin. I didn't say that.
Yeah, I will look into that comment. Yeah, that's exactly it. Is poker is an amazing game, but it can't be the full functional storyline. When you're tuning in to watch a YouTube or a Twitch stream, you got to get involved in the personality. You want to know their backstory, what they do on the weekends. If it's just poker, it's kind of a lame story. You can get that anywhere. But the infusion of the story and the personality, I could go through the top 10 poker streamers and I could tell you what their story is and why people watch them and why they're successful. They're entertaining and they're delivering something.
But also, Kevin, you have a fantastic voice. We've already talked about that before, but not a face for radio. Like, you belong on the stream in front of everyone. And you have recently partnered with GG, and I have to give you a huge congratulations, because I think these are pretty valuable spots that lots of people would be very, very interested in. So talk to me a little bit about, choosing to lend your name and your beautiful face and your beautiful voice to the GG Poker family.
Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you so much. So the deal's done. GG's launching a new exciting team, which is super sick. It's really, really cool because they're the new kid on the block. They're the cool kid with a little bit of attitude, a little bit of swagger. They're doing some new things. They're a little unconventional. I partnered with them for the WSOP. We had some wild streams, and they're awesome. So they've assembled a little bit of a team. And PokerStars has been #1. I worked with PokerStars for a couple of years. It was really cool, really, really awesome to do that. But they were #1 by far, and there was no real competitor. There was no one to dance with. Now GG has come on the storm, new software, innovative tournaments. The game looks good, and now it's like, okay, this could be the new #1 site. And so they've put together a little content team. Well, there's a couple teams. There's the GG Heroes, with the Dean Eggs, Elke, Fedor. You got the GG Crew. And then the part of the team I'm on is the GG Squad. There's 6 of us. We're just going to pound out YouTube videos, Twitch streams, make content. And yeah, it's going to be exciting to see what the team can do. It's innovative. It's fresh. The team that they put together, they are poker players. They play high stakes. They play really well. But it's also like they bring that lifestyle. They're cool. They're people you could just have a drink with, sit down at the bar and chill with. So I'm pumped. I worked with GG for the WSOP, and we got a deal locked in, and it's going to be a really exciting year.
So obviously, I'm all about a team that you can just get together and have a drink with, at the end of the day. So we've got you. Who are some of the other homies on the squad portion with you?
Yeah, it is a squad. It is a really, really cool group. So there's me. I'm one of the key members. Then you got IR Egyptian, high stakes tournament player. You got Easter Dames, high stakes tournament player. This guy's wild. He fires the highest stakes of almost anyone on Twitch. He's wild. You got a new streamer. He's a cash game streamer, cool guy. His name is Khaki T. And you got Jet Kiss, another. And you got a really good team. It's a really exciting team to be a part of. And then you got to have a little bit of 4-card poker. You got Jane Nandez, who's going to cover the Omaha, rounding it out. But there's 6 of us. It's going to grow, but it's like a sick little team to launch with, and I'm super excited.
Okay, so you mentioned there's also the heroes, which I kind of feel like, does that put the squad and the crew?
I was like, I want to be a hero, man. What? You know, I'm part of the GG squad, but the Heroes, like that's the best name ever, the GG Heroes.
That's like end game status when you get to the Heroes. But let's talk a little bit then. So what distinguishes the crew from the squad, and who's the crew?
The squad is the six of us. We're locked in to be the foundation of content coming from GG Poker, including, you know, podcasts, streams, YouTube videos. The crew is more like maybe a one-off, like influencer can come in. Even that's a gross word. I can't believe I just used that word, influencer. Ugh, the worst word maybe that has come out recently. But those are like the one-offs. You know, those are the one-offs you can bring in for a series, create some hype videos. Maybe this is a person who, you know, is a very big YouTuber, but they don't play poker. They can come and make a few YouTube videos. So that one's a little bit more of a fluid of a group. But the squad is locked in. The squad is sick for sure.
So I know that, you know, we talked a little bit about some of the things that GG's trying, that they're really kind of just like going for it and not being, you know, stuck in this, you know, traditional model that we've seen for the last little while. I, of course, am obsessed with the staking platform. I think it's one way that really, it allows us to be engaged in a way that, you know, I think because we've seen how much, you know, viewers love Twitch, we realize that they want a sweat, they want to be involved with someone. So I love the staking platform, but they're also trying now. This is something I even just heard about two days ago, I want to say, and I want to make sure I'm saying, they're calling it the Saturday session. But basically, you know, Saturdays have been more or less a snooze in the poker world, both I think in terms of content, and then also because there's just not a lot of tournament action. Everybody's prepping themselves, you know, they've got to get ready for their Sunday grind. So talk to me a little bit about this idea, the concept of the Saturday session, and, you know, what distinguishes it from, like, say, what players are ready for on Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday's the big day where everyone goes ham. Saturday's usually a little chill. So Saturday is going to be a social vibe. It's going to be all of us streamers coming together, everyone in the community. We're going to play a lot of tournaments. We're going to play a lot of other games as well. Like, have you seen these other games that have gone viral, like Fall Guys or Among Us? So have you played Among Us, Sarah?
No.
Oh, it's gone viral. It's the biggest game of the year. It's unbelievable. So yeah, Saturdays are like that chill session, hangout. You know, we're gonna play some poker with the community, but it's very community focused. It's like, how do we interact with people and not just play poker? It's how to get the community involved. So it's going to be a regular thing. With Beat the Pros is a big tournament. It's a $200 tournament every Saturday on GG. That's going to get really, 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 really big. So yeah, it's just a fun hangout session every single Saturday. But that's the thing. That's the thing about GG. Like, that is really, they're hitting a different level. When you play online poker on almost every site, it feels like you're not playing against people. It really doesn't. You don't feel like there's a personal level to the game. But with GG, they're not there yet. There's still a lot of steps they got to go, and I think they'd be the first to admit it. But they're the first one that's like hitting the brink of like, wow, it feels like you're actually a human across from me. And the cool thing about the site, the one reason I wanted to work with them is like, yes, pros are beating the game. You can make a living by playing poker on GG. But it also, like, I have a couple buddies who just started playing poker, and they're like, what site? They love GG. They love the emotes. They love the snap cam. They love the feel of it. And it can service both, you know, both parts of the industry. So I'm pumped about the company. There's a long ways to go, but over the next couple of years, we could see it become gigantic.
I definitely agree. And so for those who are listening, you know, for those who maybe are already fans, probably a lot of people who are listening or watching are already big Kevin Martin fans. If they're trying to, they want to play with you, they want to connect with you, they want to, you know, I think a lot of what GG is trying to do is make the squad more accessible, right, to exactly. Fans and players alike. So what is the best, most effective way for people to become a part of the family?
Yeah, well, come hang out on Saturdays. We're all going to be streaming on Saturdays, all going to be squad streaming, you know, playing games, playing home games with the community, playing some Zoom cash games or whatever, a lot of poker, but we're going to play a lot of other video games as well and really get people involved. I mean, the staking platform is a great way as well. No other site has done it. It's unbelievable. It's fast. It's reliable. So before I start my session, I go on and I just sell like 20% of every tournament. Everyone comes, buys it. And then I kind of feel guilty when I punt it off, you know, bluffing someone else's money, but it is what it is sometimes. But that's another great way to get involved. Yeah, there's tons of home games going on and stuff. It is really community based for sure.
So for those who are wanting to watch you also, let's just say they want to like jump into your stream live, what's your, do you have like a standard schedule? Do you have something kind of predictable?
Not really, actually. I've never been a schedule guy, kind of, actually, especially with poker. With poker, I really, if I'm didn't get a good sleep or I'm not in the best mind state, it's a good day to skip, I think. With poker, you're playing with a lot of money. You're playing a high equity game. I think being dialed in is really, really important. So my schedule is kind of fluid, but round the clock, the GG squad is almost always one of us is going to be on Twitch for sure. But yeah, come get involved. My handle is twitch.tv/Kevin Martin. If you ever see me on there, come hang out. And there's the Bounty Hunter series coming up on GG, high stakes. The WSOP, we fired the biggest I've ever played. It was really fun. It was a really good litmus test because this is the story. I talk about Twitch streamers having a story. This is my story right now. When I started on Twitch, I was a fish. I was a fun player. I was a losing player. I progressed. I worked really hard on my poker game. I became a winning player. I've crushed live poker, crushed the mid stakes. But every time I go to the big dance, I go to the top dogs, they smash me down and laugh at me a little bit. The elite players are still so much better than me. So my story right now is, can I get elite? Over the next year and a half, I've hired a really high-level elite coach. I got a plan. I got a study schedule. So my story right now is, okay, I went from being a bad player to an okay player. Can I take that leap and go from to somebody, potentially a top 300 player in the world and somebody that can really crush? And, maybe we're going to fall flat on our face, but I think I'm going to get it done over the next couple of years.
I love that. Kevin is the next GG hero. Obviously, it's coming. And I mean, that's something that I think it's one of my favorite things to see in this poker world is there's a lot of players that I can remember, buying into the 500 euro events that are now playing 100,000 euro events, and watching them take those leaps. And it's really interesting because actually I think one of the craziest things is that sometimes I think it's, okay, whoever is the best player, but sometimes I think they just found someone who had a lot of money to bankroll them, and then you can take enough chances that you get there. I don't know, but I will be very excited to watch your journey. And you mentioned to me before we started that you took a little break from poker, took some time off, pumped the brakes a little bit. And this is something that I've seen a lot in my career, is that a lot of players, when they step back, are able to come back with a sort of different focus, a different motivation. Talk to me a little bit about why you decided to take a break and then what it's been like coming back.
Yeah, in 2019, it was a rough year. 2020 has been rough for a lot of people in the world, but for 2019 personally, I had some family deaths, just like not living a healthy lifestyle, just a little burnt out. So I called it quits. I retired. I hung it up. I had no intentions to come back. It's like, that's it. I'm not going to stream. I'm going to go find my way in a different path in the world. But 9 months off, I was like, oh man, poker's the best game ever. It's kind of what I want to do again. But it was really good at recalibrating my brain. I got healthier. Shout out to my girlfriend. She's a full-time personal trainer. So she's got me working out a little bit more. That was a big thing. Yeah, that, like you said, that long break to recalibrate the brain, come back with a little more appreciation. Poker players, we can get numb to money. We're losing or winning such massive amounts of money. I went and worked a different job, making $25 an hour, which is good. But then it just is like, oh yeah, poker has a lot of opportunity to do really well. So that recalibration was really good. I've come back, shout out to my community on Twitch. My numbers have been bigger than ever. My viewers are massive, and it's really, really, really exciting. So that break was necessary. And now we're on to the next chapter in the next couple of years.
It's interesting too. It's a little of the absence makes the heart grow fonder for both sides, right? Your fans are like missing you so much, and you're, realizing and recognizing it is really easy in almost every element of our lives, I think, to lose the appreciation. Even for me, I had an accident earlier this year, and walking, like knowing that you can walk, it's like such a silly little thing, but when you can't do it, all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, this is a humongous amazing thing. Yeah. Or losing your voice, or there's like all these just stupid silly things that we just take for granted all day every day, and certainly this industry.
I follow your mama life on social media I missed this. What, you had an accident? You're okay?
Oh my gosh, I'm the worst about social media, actually. I'm terrible. But yeah, I just basically broke every bone in my leg. But I'm walking now again. I got a little bit of a limp, but I think it kind of makes me look cool. Like in Houston, I think people are like, okay, yeah, she's down. But it definitely was a reminder for me. You know, you get stressed out about all kinds of things, you know, and then really you just have to remember it. Like every little thing is so precious. If you didn't have it, you would be so lost. And poker is certainly that. I've found myself lots of times forgetting to appreciate what a cool business this is and what a cool industry. And
yeah, in 2020, you know, at least in Canada, I live a very blessed life. All my friends live a very blessed life. You know, we're the most blessed humans in human history, and as our lives have gotten so amazing in terms of medical care, access to food, access to entertainment, our appreciation has gotten numbed. And it's good to take that breath and be like, wow, you know, maybe I took a bad beat deep in a tournament, but that, you know, it really doesn't matter in the grand schemes of things. If you have your health, your family, it sounds cheesy. It sounds like this is like, you know, something of a face, you know, some sort of Facebook post or something, but it really is true. Having that appreciation and that empathy is so massive.
And I've really seen, even in the course of this last decade in poker, I've really seen a shift in the poker community as a whole, from people who I think cared very little about their health to this realization that if you don't have your health, you are not going to be a great poker player, probably anyways. That it's all, I think it's all connected for sure. You know, to be a great poker player, I think you have to have the right mindset and the right body set and all the right things, you know, to get to that level you're talking about, the highest levels.
And added on top of that, it's the discipline. If you look at the top 100 players in the world, you know, like the Jason Koon, he's a jacked nerd is what he is. He's a shredded nerd. And because the discipline to study, to put a plan to get in shape like that and to execute is the same plan for poker. It's the same plan for poker. The work comes away from the table. You know, these guys who are at the top of their game are putting in hundreds of hours of poker theory, and you know, it's just the discipline. It's hard. A lot of people try and they just like give up, you know. So
and
there's a lot of respect for a lot of those elite poker players who are also jacked. It seems like they're all
And that's true, especially now. But I feel like there's so much crossover, and maybe we just see it because we're in the industry, but I'm always making these, you know, analogies between poker and like basically everything else in life. Like, even my husband's in sales now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, sales is basically just poker. It's like got all this variance, and there's these like huge swings, you know, like up and down. And I think so many things can correlate to poker. But so now you're back in, you're streaming, you've got this partnership with GG. Before I, you know, let you move on for your birthday party month, weekend, whatever it's going to be, talk to me a little bit about what you see then for your sort of immediate future. What do things look like for you coming up?
Yeah, to end the year, I mean, we're full in grind mode. I got a strict study regimen. I'm trying to get better and better and better, and we're playing some high stakes. I mean, during the WSOP, my average buy-in was the highest it's ever played, and there was a massive leap in skill as well. I played the 25K online. Those guys are like poker Avengers. They're unbelievable. You know, the Steven Chidwicks, all the German players, they're sick. They're the best in the game. They're the top of their craft. But it was a good litmus test, again, to be like, okay, I am here. How do I get there? So that's our plan. Me and my girlfriend, you know, we just moved into a new house, and we finally got settled. By the way, moving is the most intense activity maybe you can do ever. There's still boxes everywhere, but yeah, that's the next plan for the next year and after as well. Work with GG, get really good at poker, stream, make content, and I'm also really obsessive about golf. I'm trying to shoot in the 70s. It's like a big thing in my brain right now for golf, and I'm getting very, very close. But full steam ahead. It's a very exciting time.
Do you make content about other elements of your life, or you mostly just stream?
That's the other thing as well, is poker is going to be the core, but we are going to try to branch out a little bit. I want to try to make golf content, and golf is the best game, maybe you know, up there with poker as well. Yeah, that's one thing I'm going to try to do this year as well, is diversify content. People love the poker, but they want to see other things going on.
Yeah, it's like we talked about, they want to know about you, and also I want to know about golf. So get it going. Like, let's get this content out there, boy.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to figure out right now is how do I get Wi-Fi on a golf course and not make the course upset and get a little camera set up or whatever. My brother is an engineer and he's actually designing a setup. So it's on the list. It's a project we got going on. It'll be fun.
Dude, I love it. Well, I always love our catch-ups, and I feel like now that you're GG branded, we're just gonna have to make it more than every year and a half.
Yeah, let's move it down to like 6 months.
Yeah.
Every 6 months, let's have a check-in.
Yeah.
I enjoy our time for sure, and it's you're amazing. I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're walking. That's scary.
Me too. I'm really glad about that also.
You got a little baby. I don't have a baby yet. That could be something in like 3 years for me as well.
I could see that. Being like a really cute baby. Just saying. Like a really healthy, cute, and maybe our babies can golf together.
Yes.
My baby will be good at golf by then, or you can teach her. But I so appreciate you taking the time, as always. And I'm really excited to see you on this team. I'm really excited to see this team in general. And yeah, we'll just catch up in however many months.
Yeah, the team is exciting, and GG. It's nice to join a brand that is just launching into the trajectory. Like the GG is the most improved poker company by far. The leap that they've made in the last year and a half is incredible. So it's nice to be on board, and we're gonna crush. It's gonna be a very exciting time. Sarah, you are the best. I always enjoy our talks. You just radiate positivity. And there's something about you that's very magnetic.
I feel the same way, actually. I feel the same way. I said it, and then I was like, oh, I'm out over here blushing now. I was like, oh, I'm excited. Oh, Kevin, it'll be easy. But now we're just going to compliment each other. Nobody wants to listen to that. Oh, I just love catching up with Kevin. And since we are just in the realm of the Kevins, let's go ahead and talk to Rotterdam 08, Kevin van der Kooi, who has been a phenomenal broadcaster for many years and a recent convert to the world of poker commentating. Welcome, Kevin. What is up, everybody? I am joined by Kevin van der Kooi, who is also known as Rotterdam. And for those in the poker community, you will recognize him, of course, as the other half of Nanonoko during the GG Poker stream teams. But Rotterdam, Kevin, what do you want me to call you? What should I call you?
Kevin or Roddy is fine. Like Rotterdam is a bit long. Roddy is fine. Kevin is fine. Whatever you want.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll call you Roddy. Let's, keep it like we're already here. So for those who are mostly, traditional poker fans, obviously a lot of this audience is going to be mostly poker fans who will be less maybe familiar with some of your background. And I watched a couple of interviews for this to kind of get a little taste of your life as a streamer and as a broadcaster, as a video game. I'm such a noob, a video game player, I guess. I don't know. So can you, for the audience who might be less familiar, kind of give us a little taste of your non-poker life and then also your poker life?
All right. So I think my online life pretty much started during Warcraft 3, which was a strategy game released by Blizzard in, I don't know, the year 2001, 2002, something like that. I found it out a bit later and I started playing it a lot. And then I realized that people were competing in tournaments for prize money. And I was like, hey, that sounds really cool and awesome. And I'd love to try that too. So I played a lot of Warcraft when I was young and eventually got pretty good. Never was like the best player in the world or something, but I was good enough to participate in the pro leagues, travel around the world, participate in some events. And that was really fun. I did that for a couple of years. Towards the end of Warcraft 3, I started focusing a lot more on commentating Warcraft events because back then it just used general all around esports broadcasters. But I always thought it was a bit of a shame that I felt they missed a lot of the things that makes Warcraft such a cool game. So then I offered to a couple of the tournament organizers, like, hey, why don't you guys let me commentate? I think I can do a good job and explain strategies. And they said, like, all right, yeah, you do it. Come to Germany next week and we'll put you on this show. So I did it. People liked that. And then I kind of just started becoming a commentator all of a sudden out of nowhere, which is very standard these days. But in 2007, 2008, there weren't really many people who were living off like esports commentary. So it was very cool. Back then, I already played some poker, like during the very early days, but I was always just a super amateur, probably just a losing player. Just enjoyed the game, thought it was fun. Knew a couple of the previous Warcraft pros that moved on to poker, but I never knew that much about it. Then later on, I heard more about it. I did play more, but StarCraft 2 came out in 2010, another strategy game. And since I was so big into Warcraft, I was like, I gotta give this a try, and obviously fell in love with the game. And I have been a professional StarCraft 2 commentator and streamer ever since. I'm pretty good in StarCraft as well, but not as good as I was in Warcraft. I'm good enough for people to watch me, but I'm not good enough to win a tournament ever. But that's also not my job. Besides that, because or at least like I was making a living out of StarCraft, I kind of moved around a bit. I lived in Germany for 2 years. And then I also lived in Los Angeles for a couple of years, where I worked for an American studio. And that was very cool because since I was living basically in LA, at least very close to LA, I was like, hey, you can actually play good poker over here. So I did go to Commerce Casino a whole lot in my life. I always just play lower stakes, just for fun on the side. And obviously, if you live in LA, it's also very easy to drive to Vegas. So I did that a fair amount of times as well. But yeah, poker was always just something that I liked, but it was never like my main priority in life because it was always just esports. But yeah, then I got to know Elke, I don't know, a long time ago already. And then I met Elke a couple of times at esports events. And, we had great times. Let's go for dinners, have some drinks. Met him in Vegas a few times as well. And then a couple months ago, all of a sudden, Elke DM'd me. He's like, hey, we're going to do this show. It's so sick. I think you'll be perfect for it. I was like, me? And like, why me? He's like, oh, no, I like your energy. You did with NanoNoko. It's going to be great, man. Like, just you and Nano. Just make some memes and make a good show. And I was like, I was really caught off guard by that because I was like, that's the last thing I ever expected. I did go to a couple like poker events that people organize with the idea of like involving esports. Did something with PokerStars a long time ago. And I went to quite a few of the Unibet battle royales where I am by no means a great poker player, but if you put me against other esports people, then all of a sudden I think I'm pretty good because, that's not the most difficult field in the world. But when Elke asked me for this show, I was like, I mean, it sounds like a really fun opportunity and I'd love to give it a try, but I really don't know if I'm suited for this. He's like, no, just try it. And yeah, then I signed up for it and we did a couple of shows and yeah, I guess it's been going pretty well because they still like me. They still ask me to come back. And I think I've been having a great time with NanoNoko, so that's really cool.
That's super interesting. Yeah, so clearly that was going to be, one of the questions I wanted to get into was doing the show with NanoNoko. So clearly NanoNoko has a very pragmatic sort of math wizard based mind. He's, notorious for multi-tabling a zillion tables at one time. But he's also very good at explaining sort of strategies and explaining, reasons why players might be doing something. I have to assume that you're maybe more of the color portion of the show, but talk to me a little bit more about that dynamic and, what it felt like to come into poker as a commentator. I've also been put in that position once or twice before where I know that I just don't know enough to be solid in these spots, but that's not always what everyone's looking for either. People are definitely looking for other elements in their entertainment. So talk to me about the balance of working with NanoNoko and finding your sort of footing in the show.
Yeah, that was obviously very complicated because I knew that pretty much everyone I was going to give commentary on was going to be a much better poker player than me. And then on top of that, I have a co-commentator who's a million times better in poker than me. And I'm like, what do I add? But the guys from GG, they said all along, they're like, there are so many shows already about poker where people explain all the mathematics and it's always about playing right in the perfect spot. They're like, we just want you to bring some energy and get excited over certain players, get excited over their plays. And you can have opinions even if they're wrong. Just say what you'd like to see and then just kind of, they're like, just be yourself and try to make it a fun show. And I was like, well, I guess I can try that. And then obviously, like, I'm not, I don't feel comfortable like disagreeing with NanoNoko about anything because that'd be pointless, right? Like he's played a million more hands than me probably as well. But you try to find a balance where it's like, all right, like if I just always agree with everything he says, because obviously in poker, like even though you can say poker, it's been sort of figured out in a way, I think there's always different unique spots as well because certain players, not everybody plays super GTO or plays according to the stats all the time. So then you can also say that you could make certain moves against player X, Y, or Z that maybe normally you shouldn't, but in that particular spot you can. And in that way, you just kind of try to find a story each and every single week. And you try to keep an eye on how a couple of the guys play because yes, a lot of guys play similar, But I think after 17, 18 weeks of the high roller Super Millions, you definitely see that a lot of people bring their own flavor and their own style to these final tables as well. And yeah, not everything may always be super GTO or may not be necessary or the way that you're supposed to play. Just kind of try to focus on that and then highlight the plays that specific individuals have made and just get excited over it like that.
I love that. You know, I actually was going to have someone else on another show that I was working on, a well-known great poker player, who said that they didn't want to come on the show to do commentary because they had done commentary on a super high roller type event before and had gotten a lot of, you know, flack for different decisions they thought they would make or their play style, and just didn't want to subject themselves again to that kind of, you know, ridicule. And it is an interesting spot because what we're finding with the Super Millions is that these are the biggest sickos in poker, like every week coming back to play these events. And, you know, it's definitely hard to put yourself in the spot with these guys, but I love that you just like get in there and do it. And let's talk a little bit about some of the faces that you're seeing. I know that Dario San Martino is now doing back-to-back final tables, who I happen to have kind of a thing for. I'm married, but you know, like everyone loves Dario. But there's been, you know, Michael Adamo has been crushing, Stephen Chidwick. Talk to me a little bit about some of the faces that are recurring in this game and that you get to just watch every week.
Yeah, what's been very fun for me is that, like, I have played poker for a long time, but like I said, as an absolute amateur, but I was always a fan of the poker shows in the early days, you know, when high stakes poker was all the rage, or when WSOP was getting proper coverage for the main event. And I watched all those shows, or shows like The Big Game where NO-MARKUP was on as well, and Elke. So it's really cool for me to see now a couple of the guys that have been around forever, for such a long time. Players like Isaac Haxton as well. He made it to one final table and he won it. So that's been super cool for me. Then on top of that, besides, you know, being a fun poker player, I'm also a poker fan, but I watch other streamers. So I watch a lot of Lex. Like Lex is obviously a fantastic streamer and just a great all-around guy. And then you see Lex praising the guys that he plays a lot against. You see people like European, for instance, make nothing but deep runs, Giraffe Ganger. And then to suddenly see those guys at the final table as well, it's just a very fun experience for me, because I'm like, okay, like, I'm not as involved where I know like every single high limit crusher around the world, but I do know those guys from the old days. And I do know those guys that I watch on different streams doing well. And it's really cool to see those worlds kind of come together. And then on top of that, you always have like the miracle stories of guys that settle at it in from $100 to $1,000 into the main event and then make their final table. Like, I started playing quite a bit on GG myself as well. And then all of a sudden I see dudes that are, you know, in some of the much smaller tournaments, like your regular Bounty Hunter 52 daily main. I was like, I played with that guy. Now he's at the final table of the high roller. So it's just been a fun dynamic of a little bit of everything. And obviously, when you see guys like Michael Adamo win 3 out of the first 9, it's like, I don't even see how that's statistically possible. You know, like no matter how good he may be, that shouldn't happen, right? Like, because there are so many good players in these fields. But I think it's been very easy to get excited over a lot of the results and a lot of the plays that we've seen at these final tables. And obviously, I like, you know, Elke made it to one final table, and I obviously would love to commentate a little more Elke when he came in as a short stack. But for me, that's kind of the charm, to see some of the guys that I watched on TV or like on internet television in 2005, 2006, 2007, to see them make final tables in 2020. I think that's pretty cool.
So you mentioned a little bit, you know, that some of the guys sort of play similarly. And this is something that we've seen, I think, especially in the high roller space, that trends start to emerge, and then that these trends become like mimicked, and then things become sort of more standard, where you kind of have some expectations about how hands are going to play out or what's going to happen. But for you now commentating every week, are you seeing a lot of things that surprise you, or do you feel like you're kind of getting more of a sense of like, okay, these are the standard things that happen?
Well, I'm definitely learning each and every single week just by listening to NO-MARKUP, and you obviously get an insane amount of information because it's whole cards up for everything. But what really surprised me the most is that when you see those big online crushes like Ben CB, like European, you kind of like in your mind, you're like, these guys are just going to dominate, but they actually just play kind of solid. I don't want to say straightforward, simple, because they do pick their spots well. And you'll see some 3-bets where maybe you wouldn't expect it. But it wasn't like the tornado or the whirlwind that you would maybe expand. You're like, no, the plays that they make, they actually just make a whole lot of sense. And then you see Michael Adamo, you just see him like this putting people in like impossible spots and making bluffs in scenarios where it's like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Even with whole cards off, I don't understand the plays. But like, on one hand, you see trends, and you can put players in certain categories where it's like, okay, crazy good, crazy wild, or just like you've been on an amazing run. And then you see a couple of maybe the grinders, so to speak, where it's like, all right, like these plays, like, you know, it's starting to make sense. These hands kind of play themselves. But each and every single week, there are definitely hands where it's like, haven't seen that before, didn't expect. Like, there are hands where you expect it, okay, this is all in without a shadow of a doubt. And then for some reason, because of like a weird turn card, the action just slows down. It's like, they should have already been all in. And then the pot stays small. And then sometimes you see the two biggest trash hands just duke it out all the way to the river. And it's like, how the hell are we playing an 8 million chip pot right now where, you know, this should have been bet fold on in pre-flop. So yes, predictable sometimes. On the other end, like crazy stuff happens each and every single week.
I've been seeing one of the people on your team has sort of created a document where they're uploading like some of the craziest moments and crazy clips. And it does seem like every week there's really shocking moments and shocking things happening. And actually, as a interviewer myself, people ask me all the time, like, oh, what was the craziest interview? What's like the worst interview? Who's like the best person? And these are questions that I tend to just stay away from because I don't know, I just feel like they're not things that people like tend to note in their life. But I did get a list of questions to ask you. So I will actually include in there, is there any specific like performance or moment that's really stood out to you?
Well, performance has to be Michael Adamo, obviously winning 3 out of the first 9. The one that also really stands out is Isaac Haxton, who came in, I think, a second shortest stack, and it was legit like 8 or 9 big blinds. And, you know, we have a little picking game, Nano and me, where we pick the potential winner. And I really wanted to pick Isaac Haxton because he's just a great individual and he's, I think, a great ambassador for poker. But I was like, no, I'm going to look like a stupid fanboy if I pick Isaac Haxton to win today. And then obviously he did win. And I was like, damn it, you know, I should have trusted my gut instinct. But one thing that really stands by for me is that often you feel like, okay, we've got 9 players, but after 30, 40 minutes, you know that it comes down kind of to 2 or 3 guys. And you're like, it's going to be one of those 3. And there was one final table, which I think was maybe week 8 or week 9, where Rune F, one of the regular unknown crushes as well, has made probably 3 final tables at this point. It really felt that was his tournament. Like, he was cruising. He was a very dominant chip leader, had over 9 million when the second guy in chip had 2.8 or 3 million at best. And it really felt that guaranteed top 2, but he was probably going to win it. And I don't know exactly what happened, but basically he lost a massive pot that he really didn't have to lose. He doubled somebody else up. Next round, he gets pocket 7s, and the guy he just doubled off had aces. The guy 3-bets him, and he just shoves pocket 7s immediately for like 7 million. I'm like, no. And like Nano and I are screaming, and the guy obviously snap calls with aces, wins the hand, and it felt in the blink of an eye, Rune F was destined to win the tournament, and then suddenly he was eliminated in 4th place. And I think that's one of the craziest things I've seen.
My gosh, it's so bananas. I've definitely, yes, seen things like this before too, where I have a theory that whoever is the person who's like destined to win the tournament never wins the tournament. Actually, whenever you as the media are like, oh yeah, this is totally over, like it's going to happen, it never happens. But talk to me a little bit about, so something I'm like relatively new, I think, in the Twitch community. I did a show like 5 or 6 years ago that was kind of brief, but have dipped my toes in more in the last couple of years. And I've actually, for me, I was really shocked because the YouTube community, sorry guys who are out there watching on YouTube, but they're like really mean, a lot of them for the most part. And it's just doesn't feel so much like a community. Where the Twitch fam, it's like once they find something that they like and that they're into, are super supportive and super into it. And, you know, I think it really fosters a sense of community in a way that some of the other platforms don't. Now, obviously coming from the streaming video games background, you understand this better than anyone. You probably already had tons and tons of fans that came specifically to watch you. But talk to me about sort of what you're building in this Twitch community with Gigi and Nanonoko on these Sunday Millions. Is this like a specific group you feel like?
I mean, I hope so. I do think everything takes time, especially on a platform like Twitch, where there is obviously a lot of great content to watch 24/7 on a lot of different channels. But yeah, I think as long as you have a consistent product and people know what they're tuning in for every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Central European Summertime, it's like, hey, that's when the pre-show starts. They'll go over the players. not just us as commentators, but the players, they're also getting more familiar with a lot of these guys that keep making it to final tables. And like, it's always a bit complicated, and I can really compare this to StarCraft 2, where I've been a StarCraft 2 commentator for a long time. And at one point, you just kind of assume that your audience knows, maybe not necessarily the same as you do, but to some degree. And the same goes for poker, but that's obviously not the case. There's always new people discovering a game or finding interest in poker. And then guys that maybe are massive household names in the world of poker can be kind of new names for certain people that tune in at a certain point. And I think Twitch in general is just a good place where if you watch something together, I think it's easier to get along a little bit. Obviously, chat is moderated as well. And it's like, okay, I'll behave because I like this show. I know what to expect. I like the dynamic that maybe Nano and Roddy have, or I love the format, the structure of the tournament. I think it just becomes kind of like, hey, on Tuesday evening, it's like your favorite TV show is on. It's like, High Roller Super Millions is on. Gonna watch it. And I think it's easy to become a fan of something like that. If you've got a good experience one week, you'll be like, okay, I'll check it out again next week. And I think it's very easy to grow into something like that. While if you just find random videos on the internet, it's like, oh, mean comment, who cares? It's just you by yourself. It's like, oh, okay, whatever. I mean, I'm personally, I've never really done the YouTube comments, but I've seen it in StarCraft as well. It's like, if I upload like this, they upload a tournament, quarterfinals, semifinals, and they're like, does this guy even know what he's talking about? Is he even good at StarCraft? It's like, I stream StarCraft 7 days a week on Twitch, man. You can watch me, like, I'm pretty decent. And it's funny to see how, YouTube and Twitch have always been very different. And I think that goes for the communities as well.
It's interesting, actually. That's something that it's interesting to think about, having to commentate and to be able to make content that's interesting to people who've been watching for the last 14 weeks, and then also the ones who just tuned in for this week. There's so many little elements that I'm sure you guys have to work out and think about. And speaking of how long you guys have been doing it for, how long has it been going on for, and how long will it be going on for? Can we expect to see the Super Millions into perpetuity? And then also, you mentioned that it's kind of an interesting structure. I think, does it start playing on Sunday? How does it normally play out that it comes to the final tables on Tuesday?
Yes, the tournament always takes place on Sunday, at least, if you want to play in it. I think it's Sunday evening around 7 p.m. Central European Summertime, something along those lines. Obviously, hours of late registration. And then they play all the way down till the final 9. So it's a bit similar to the World Series of Poker, where it's like November 9. Well, we have the Tuesday 9. So they play down till the final 9. And then we do the final tables on Tuesday. I think we've had 18 weeks so far. I think last Tuesday was 18. Tomorrow is going to be the 19th edition. I don't know how long it's going to run, but I do have the feeling that GG is pretty happy with it. Obviously, there's a lot of big names that have been signing up. A couple of the guys who have been like really bringing the action in nosebleed stakes as well, they also sign up on the Sunday evening. So that's really cool to see. And I think as long as it grows and it's received well and people keep tuning in on Twitch, I think there's a good chance it will keep going for a long time. But you never know. I think the world of online poker is always a bit of the wild, wild west, right? Suddenly like something is really hot and then everybody's feeling it. And then maybe at one point people are not feeling it anymore. They want something different. So we'll see. But I think it's really cool that GG has been so far very committed to it. They've been trying to promote the tournament a lot. And we're obviously keeping track of all the results as well. And there's a good chance that eventually it might turn into some sort of cool leaderboard and then see who's been the best performing players and maybe add something to that as well. We'll see. I mean, I don't know everything, but I do know that as long as they do it, I'll be enjoying it and I'll keep doing my best.
Especially in this, COVID world that we're living in. I love that, we as fans of poker sort of asked for, like, Lord, please give us some entertainment, give us the poker that we desire. And that GG really responded in a way that kind of fits for everyone and that everyone can do from the comfort of their own homes. I, for sure, am grateful for that. And so for those who are watching or who are listening, who are interested in and would like to tune in to watch, where can they find both you and also the Super Millions on Tuesday?
That's just over at GG's Twitch channel, so it's GG Poker Official. I'll double check that, but I'm very sure about it. I always host the channel as well. Yeah, it's just GG Poker Official on all one word. It's been a very long day for me. I'm sorry. Yeah, that happens every Tuesday. But the channel is awesome anyway. They do a crazy amount of giveaways, not just during the Super Millions, but also during a lot of the other shows. Obviously, GG is getting more and more streamers on board, and I'm sure they'll do a couple of cool stream takeovers with them as well. Like I know Elke has streamed on the channel in the past, but I think there's a good chance you'll see Kakiti stream more, maybe Easterdams, maybe I think Kevin Martin just joined as well. I saw a tweet about that. So yeah, I think there's many reasons to follow that tournament. And our show happens every Tuesday. Like I said, 8 p.m. Central European Summertime. We always do a 30-minute pre-show, which I think is actually really cool. The first weeks we didn't do that. And then it was just kind of like start, poker, but you know how it goes at the final table. Some people come in with 6, 7 big blinds. They shove first hand. It's like, well, we're trying to build up the personality, but he was on stream for 74 seconds and now he's out. So we go live at 8 p.m., but the actual poker starts at 8:30 p.m., which is 2 p.m. on the East Coast, 11 a.m. on the West Coast. And then we kind of just go over all 9 players that make it to the final table. And we always take a look at one of the hands they had on this specific run to the final table as well. And that's kind of cool because, you know, they'll always find some interesting hands, some more interesting than others. But sometimes even losing hands is like, this is where he lost his first tournament live, and then he rebut, and that's how he made it to the final table. But yeah, it's a cool 30-minute build up until the actual poker starts.
I love that. I mean, even when you brought up the November 9, like, it's always been my favorite part of the whole World Series of Poker, right? Is meeting these players that you maybe didn't know before, getting to know their stories a little bit. And this is like a micro version, right, of that. The preview, the sort of like hype, you got to like hype everybody up. Here we go. And like you said, there's people that tune in that don't even know probably a lot of the players, or, you know, that some of the sickos online that people who follow live poker are not as familiar with. And I think I'm glad you guys added that. I definitely think that's the way to get people involved and to get them to, you know, get a hero or a dark horse or like someone that they want to go for. Are you the guy who goes for the hero or the dark horse?
I mean, NO-MARKUP has been making fun of me nonstop. That's kind of the thing. He likes teasing me, and I gotta admit that he has been getting the better of me in the picking game. I picked, like, there was one Arthur, a Russian player, and like a big high stakes online grinder, and I was like, okay, Arthur is gonna take it today. And then he did deliver, and that was really cool. And I wrote the hype train for a while, but you know, NO-MARKUP kept picking Michael Adamo in the beginning, so he was right about that. And then he got a few more lucky picks in, so even though he like. NO-MARKUP either picks the winner or he picks the guy who goes out first or second. And most of the time, the guys that I pick, they have decent runs. I most of the time go for a little bit of heart and then a little bit of mind. Like, obviously, I wanted to pick Isaac, like I said, but when he came in with 9 big blinds, I was like, I'll look really stupid if I do that. So most of the time, kind of go for the hero to some degree, but I don't want to make the super obvious picks. Like, if one guy comes in with 90 big blinds and the rest is 22, then it's lame to pick the guy with 90 big blinds. So
for sure.
It's kind of... Yeah,
for
throw
sure.
it up in the air.
And NO-MARKUP is just so polarized. Like, what does he know anyway?
Yeah, I think he's been getting lucky. We'll get the best of it. Nano does have one thing, and that's my favorite thing of every Tuesday evening, where it's like he sees 2 whore cards and he's like, that's it. He's out. He's eliminated from the tournament. I was like, we haven't even seen the flop yet, Nano. He's like, oh, he's dead. Bye-bye. And then obviously somebody sucks out. He's like, I can't believe it. I was like, no, I kind of can, because this happens each and every single week. I feel like if anybody should know that the best hand doesn't always win, it's you, mate. Man,
Hashtag that's poker. Like, come on, you know, what are we doing here? Well, I super appreciate you taking the time. It was really nice to get to know you and to meet one of soon to be another of my favorite duchies in the world. I'm sure you know the poker community has like a very special place for our duchies, for our homies from the Nederlands. I don't know what it is. Something about poker and Holland go together very well. For those who are listening, really quick before I let you go, where can they find you on the social medias?
It's basically Rotterdam08 everywhere, but I have to admit I don't use Twitter and Insta that much anymore, but I do stream almost every single day. Obviously, I stream a lot of StarCraft, but I've also been streaming a lot of poker, like some of my own tournament runs. I like playing, obviously, just MTT tournaments, no limit, but when it comes to cash, in a weird way, I prefer Omaha. I know that's maybe not very conventional to like Omaha more in cash and no limit more in tournaments, but that's kind of the way that I've been enjoying it. And I try to kind of find a balance of streaming at least like 40 or 50 hours of poker a month. So if you guys ever want to stop by, that'd be cool. It's been super fun for me. Like a lot of people that played Warcraft or StarCraft in the past became poker players. So when I'm active over at GG, it happens every single day where people are like, oh, hey, Roddy, like that tournament was crazy. And like on GG Poker, they talk to me about StarCraft. And it happens the other way around now as well, where my StarCraft people come in. It's like, hey, Roddy, when's the next poker stream? And I was like, wow, there's really quite a bit of crossover. And that's really cool to see. So yeah, twitch.tv/RotterdamM08 for StarCraft and poker action.
Awesome. I will definitely check it out. And I really appreciate it. I know it was a long day for you. And I'm really grateful for you taking the time and for giving the time to our audience and listeners. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, GG Poker, as we clearly spoke about with Kevin Vanderkoy, has been streaming the final tables of the Super Millions on Tuesdays, and there have been some fantastic runs, some really great sick players, and this week was no exception. We saw Stephen Chidwick come to the final table, who ended up breaking records in terms of cashes, and I know we mentioned it, Dario Sammartino was also at the final table.
Your guy.
So, Chad, let's talk a little bit about what happened with Stephen Chidwick.
Yeah, it's been pretty exciting for the Super Millions tournament on GG Poker. It's quickly become one of the more premier tournaments in online poker, in my opinion. GG Poker is putting a lot of effort behind it. You know, it plays down to the final table on Sunday. Then they use Monday to kind of promote it before they do a live stream broadcast with commentary on Tuesdays. And so it's been, you know, pretty exciting. And this week we've seen Stephen Chidwick at the final table. And what was really exciting about this was that it was just a continuation of his really Super Millions supremacy, if you will. This was his 11th cash in this tournament. His highest finish prior was back in July. He finished in 7th place. He's racked up over $310,000 in cashes. This particular week, you know, all eyes were kind of on Chidwick at the final table, and I'm trying to find the results. Where is it? I know I
think he was defeated by somebody who we don't know, Blackjack 19 out of Cyprus, who won it for 344K.
There we go.
Chidwick in second, Sarah's guy Dario Sammartino in third, Alex Foxen in fifth. I mean, Chad, you said it. This is a tournament that draws just the best of the best. So to have 11 cashes in this one, Sarah, is pretty absurd.
Yeah, well, we all know Stephen Chidwick is like kind of a ridiculous end boss. Plus, he has the new baby run good too. I feel like his baby must be like a year old or something. That's, as we all know, what just standard happens. So good job out of you, Stephen Chidwick. And now let's return to some juicy drama and gossip. And also to shameless self-promotion for Jeff Platt, who loves Poker Go and is connected in a lot of ways to Poker Go, who announced to us what the whole story with this duel was going to be. Can you please, Jeff, give us the update? What's been going down?
Yes, so the time and I guess I should unmute. There we go. Okay, so next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That would be October 21st. That would be 1 week from the day that we are taping this podcast. It is high stakes duel round 3. Phil Hellmuth versus Antonio Esfandiari with $400,000 on the line. Round 1 featured each player putting up $50K, a prize of $100,000 that Hellmuth won. For Esfandiari to be able to challenge Hellmuth in round 2, Esfandiari would have to put up another $100K. Hellmuth won that match a couple weeks ago. So now Phil has $200K in his quote-unquote bank. And now for Antonio to challenge Phil again, Antonio has to put up $200,000. So if Phil wins this, Phil would win $400K, $350K profit, and he can run for the hills. Once you win 3 matches in a row, you can take off. You can be done with the high stakes duel. Boom, that will end the show. The high stakes duel is over. Now, if Antonio wins this, that opens the door for an $800,000 round 4. Somebody would have to put up $400K to match what Antonio has in the bank. So again, that's Wednesday, October 21st, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time, and that is exclusively on Poker Go, and that will be awesome. And speaking of awesome, our friends at StakeKings are throwing together a pretty pretty cool challenge, I would say. So we've mentioned this. Hellmuth and Esfandiari are playing round 3 of the heads-up duel on October 21st on PokerGo with 400K on the line. Now, you can buy shares of Antonio Esfandiari at no markup on StakeKings.com. When you buy $1 or more of Antonio, you'll automatically be entered into a raffle for the chance to win a night out in Las Vegas with Antonio and with the StakeKings team. They'll pay for dinner, they'll pay for the drinks. So if you go to StakeKings.com, you can get in the action. Or, if you think that Phil Hellmuth is going to win once again, if you think that Hellmuth is going to make it back to back to back, you can buy shares of Phil at no markup on Ustake.com. Feel free to contact StakeKings live chat support if you have any questions, and good luck on that one. So how about that, Sarah? You could get a night out in Vegas with Antonio. That'd be the dream.
I think she could get that anyways. She doesn't have the money. She's Sarah
that,
Harry.
That is probably true. But yeah, that's probably true.
Such a big deal, guys. Just saying.
I have a question, Jeff, real quick about this heads-up challenge. So we've talked about it. Let's say Hellmuth wins again. He wins 400K. He has the option to stop, right? You win 3 consecutive. I think he probably would. But let's say he is going to consider. Does he get to know who his next challenger might be before he makes a decision? Like, if he's got the 400K and, let's say, somebody, Phil Galfond says, all right, Phil, I'm going to come battle you heads up. Can Hellmuth then say, nah, I think I'm going to take this 400 and cash out?
So my best understanding of this, it's a great question, is that if Hellmuth does win round 3 and wants to move forward, he has to declare that. And then Poker Central will receive a list of challengers, of which there might be many. And then Poker Central / Poker Go would choose the opponent for round 4. So it's not like Hellmuth could say, I want to move forward. And then, Chad, to your point, Phil Galfond comes in and says, okay, let's go. And then Hellmuth says, you know what? I was just kidding. I'm out of this. Give me my 400K. So I think that's part of the reason why we will just see Phil run for the hills after he wins this. The other part is, you profit 350K after 3 heads-up matches. Maybe it's time to say your goodbyes. But I'm fascinated to see what that kind of challenger list could look like if Antonio wins round 3, and who would be willing to put up 400K against him, creating an 800K match, and where the high stakes duel could go from there.
I know this is pulling this guy's on you out of nowhere, but let's say Hellmuth wins, he cashes out, and high stakes duel has to start anew, right? With 2 new players starting off at 50K apiece. Who would you like to see, at least one player, be in that new match? Who do you think would be a good poker superstar to maybe start it off and then maybe take it higher, be willing to take it to the max if they keep on winning out?
Yeah,
Obviously,
it's a great question. So,
me, right?
Both of you. Both of you.
Go ahead, Sarah, Jeff. You go ahead.
Go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead.
Okay. So I wanted Negreanu versus Polk in this kind of the format where they just put up the money, they play for it all, we stop when somebody has 0 chips left, and then they can choose to keep going. So that was kind of my dream high stakes duel of sorts. Now, you mentioned one player, and I would love to see Phil Ivey in this. Not just because of the aura that Phil Ivey brings to production like this, but I don't see Phil Ivey as a guy who would stop at 100K, at 200K, at 400K, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think Ivey could take this to unparalleled heights, and I think that would be cool. So that would be my dream competitor for this next edition of High Stakes Duel if it ends after round 3.
Okay, well, I think that if anybody read what Phil Galfond had to say about Phil Hellmuth, if not, check it out. It's pretty interesting. He basically said after watching this heads-up match, he feels like maybe he was wrong in his previous thinking that Phil Hellmuth was not understanding the game very well. It was a very nuanced and interesting perspective, but essentially Phil Galfond said, I'd like to apologize. I think Phil Hellmuth actually made a lot of great decisions, and that this heads-up match was a highlight of his career in terms of, seeing how flawlessly he felt like it was played. Enter in Fedor Holtz, who basically says, I think Phil's great against worse players, but against really great players, like high roller players, I don't think he's very good. So personally, I would now like to see the Fedor Holtz Phil Hellmuth matchup. feel like it's like, okay, put the money where the mouth is. Let's just get it going. And, you know, it's interesting because even we had this whole conversation and dialogue years ago after Negreanu played, I want to say, in a super high roller bowl, and, you know, just famously said, the Germans are too good. I'm not good enough anymore. I've got to get my game right, get my game better. So I think it would be interesting to see like the German against Phil Hellmuth and just watch the fireworks go.
What do you think, Chad? Who would you like to say?
Sarah just said it, put your money where your mouth is, and that leads me to Mike the Mouth Mattisau, which and the reason I say this is because if you remember back in the day, there was the NBC National Heads Up Poker Championship. This was a tournament started in 2005, ran through 2013 with the exception of 2012. There was no tournament. That was right after Black Friday. They didn't do it that year. They returned in 2013 for what turned out to be the last edition of that tournament, and it happened to be Mike the Mouth Mattisau defeating Phil Hellmuth heads up to win the title. So technically, Mike the Mouth Mattisau is the reigning national heads up poker champion, and I would love to see him come over to High Stakes Duel. He's pretty entertaining. He likes to talk, and maybe try out, see if he's still got his heads up skills against you know, somebody else. Maybe if I had to choose like two old school players to kick off a new heads up duel, I might choose like Mike the Mouth Mattisau and Phil Locke. I don't get enough Phil Locke in my life these days. I think he could be, those two together could be a lot of fun for a round one match.
And also the bonus that then Jennifer Tilly is somewhere in the audience, maybe, or at least in Vegas for the rest of us. All right, fantastic. Well, I think we just have one more story to cover from our friends at Run It Once. And if you guys have not checked out Run It Once yet, please do so. You can get up to 600 euros first deposit match bonus, and this is an offer that can last into perpetuity. Depending on where you are in the world, you can find this offer if you just go to the little magnifying glass icon on PokerNews and type in Run It Once, or go to once.run/pnpod, once.run/pnpod. Now, this Galfond challenge has been going on for a while now. We are currently in the stage where we have another fantastic smile in poker, Chance Kornuth versus Phil Galfond. I think Chance is not traditionally a PLO player, so the odds actually were stacked against him, but the dollars also made that make a lot more sense, I think, for Chance. He had to put up significantly less money than Phil in this spot. What is the latest going on, Chad?
Yeah, so Chance is getting 4-1 on this Phil Galfond challenge, $250,000 to win $1 million. They're going to play 35,000 hands. As of right now, about 6,000 have been played through 11 sessions. Through the first 9 sessions, it was Phil Galfond all the way. He pulled out to a $280,000 lead, and it certainly wasn't looking good for Chance Kornuth. But after taking a slight break so that Chance could reload some funds onto WSOP.com, they got back at it and put in 2 more sessions, and both those sessions went Chance Kornuth's way. He put together back-to-back wins of about $80,000 a piece, and basically more than cut the deficit in half. So he's going to be down right now about $120,000, $130,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. There's a great recap up on PokerNews.com from Mo Nuara about those 2 sessions. There's actually a Galfond Challenge hub now on PokerNews that talks about all things Phil Galfond and Galfond Challenge, from all his matches, from Veni Vidi, Action Freak, Bill Perkins, Chance Kornuth, and the upcoming ones as well. So definitely check that out. And then, of course, Sarah, you put together a fun, great video this week about, for those who don't know, what the Galfond Challenge is. So I encourage people to check that out as well.
Yeah, super good and fun and interesting. And also, guys, so we talked a little bit. Chad has been sort of the face of poker for us, the face of returning to the real world of poker. And the EPT apparently is also now returning to real live poker, in that they had a event in Sochi in early October. Did you guys, I didn't even hear about this.
Right? Like, I didn't know. I had heard rumblings that EPT Sochi was going to happen, and then before I knew it, it was over. And there was the recap up on Poker News that Mo Nuara put together. But it certainly wasn't as hyped as they usually are. There was, I don't think, much live reporting there, at least not from PokerNews. They might have had some regional Russian stuff. The player base looked to be mainly Russian players. There was definitely some bigger names there from the Russian market, if you will. But given what's going on in the world, you didn't see players traveling in. But even still, it, in my opinion, got some pretty impressive numbers. The main event was about 1,900 euros, and it drew 637 entries, making it a 1.1 million euro prize pool. And so the first place prize went to Ruslan Bogdanov. He got 175,000 euros. So not too shabby for a event that's coming on the heels of a pandemic, and you don't really have as many traveling players. I think those numbers alone suggest that, just like here in the United States, it must be a hunger for live poker over there in Russia.
There certainly is. And I did go to Russia 2 years ago to cover a poker tournament. And I think the same as we've all been sort of looking towards, say, India, China, that we've been, as an industry, looking towards some of these countries that have very large populations to be at the forefront of probably what is going to be the future of the poker world. And I definitely think Russia is one of those spots as well. And they have so many players who are they're like crazy tech wizards. I met so many players there who are just like these online bot crazy, that they're doing all kinds of weird technology things that I don't even understand. And also we all know that if you want to stream something and you can't find it, that you have to go to the Russians to get like a bootleg stream. So I think we all have to keep our eyes on these Russian players. I definitely think they are part of the future of what the poker industry will look like in the coming decades. Okay, guys, so I think I'm buying a house on Friday. Everybody out there, please send me that house run good and that everything goes through okay. Chad's already a homeowner. Jeff, someday? Wait, you're not? You are.
No, I am.
Someday. I'm waiting to see Chad's new streaming background. He's hyped up this, but he's got an awesome setup already.
So here's the plan. Well, let's give Sarah, you just told us what's going on with you. I'll tell you what's going on with me. Next week, hopefully, I'm pretty confident I'll have a new setup, new background. I set up a little area in the house where I'm going to start, doing podcasts and streaming stuff from. So that's in the cards. I also have been talked into starting tomorrow. Remco Renkema and Tim Duckworth have been holding this 6-month weight loss bet that has just concluded, and they're starting a new one. And so they've talked me into it. I needed a little motivation to get myself going, get back in shape. And I'm hoping this doesn't cost me a lot of money, because there's some stiff penalties if you don't meet the goals that you need to. But I'm going to try to. We'll see. I've seen Remco. I've seen Tim Duckworth. I've seen others who were in that weight loss challenge do some incredible things. They're looking good. They're making the most of their quarantine time. And so I'm like, all right, it's time to get on this train and let's go. So that's what I'm starting to do tomorrow. But
but you were already drinking Diet Shasta today.
Yeah.
Why don't you live it big today, Chad?
I'm going to live it big today, but just not in the realm of soda. I don't like sugary drinks. Maybe today will be like a pizza and pasta day or something. One last
pizza,
hurrah.
Soup and pasta. Pizza, soup and pasta. Okay. Jeff, what's going on in your life? You got a new stream set up too. You're trying to show off your alcohol collection.
Yeah, I wish the computer worked so I could just be back to a regular stream background. But I'm off to Texas, Sarah, our favorite state, this week for a wedding in good old New Braunfels in between the San Antonio and Austin area. And then coming back.
Schlitterbahn, am I right?
Yeah, Schlitterbahn. Yeah. Get some kolaches, however you say them, but we'll have some and they'll be fantastic. And then back in Vegas next week, and just going to try to fire up a Twitch show and see what works.
And you're going to be doing a daily Twitch show, you said?
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna go. It's gonna start next Monday, but the only day that I'll take off is Friday. 1 month commitment. Just kind of, just see what happens. Just talk. But I want to bring you guys in at times, just to talk about not just poker, but just talk about life. Have some wine. It'll be great.
I'm going to Texas too, Jeff. I'm not going to be there when you're there, but In a little over 2 weeks, I'm going down to Houston for the very first time to check out the Prime Social Club. They're hosting the inaugural Lone Star Poker Series that's hosted by Kim Stone, has really put it together. And we're going to be doing some updates for PokerNews.com. And I said, you know what? I've heard a lot about these Texas card clubs. They are still going. It's about time I get down there and see what they're all about. So I'm going to head down there and check those out. And I'm actually quite excited about it. I've never been to Houston, and as fate would have it, I'm arriving on Saturday the 24th, and on the 25th, Sunday, the Green Bay Packers happen to be in town to take on the Houston Texans. And since the Texans are 0-4 and they have not a great team and the quarantine's going on, ticket prices are really, really low. So I'm going to be going to an NFL game. They're only allowing like 20% capacity, but it should be an experience. I like checking out new NFL stadiums, so it should be some fun.
I like how you can just be like, and since their team sucks, tickets are really cheap. And if I like knew or cared, I would totally try to throw some shade, but I don't, unfortunately. All right, cool, guys. Well, we appreciate you listening as always, of course. And if you would like to rate, review us, go onto the iTunes. We always appreciate it, guys. As we've told you many, many times, this is a labor of love. Just Jeff found out recently that he's basically making a fraction of what anyone else in his spot would be making. But he does it because he loves it, and we love it.
The game.
We love you guys, and we appreciate you. We really do genuinely appreciate you guys listening. And I really do think there's certain fans that we connect with like every week basically on Twitter who are always like out there saying things. And oh my gosh, we have to give away our last book. Oh,
gotta do it.
You guys, we almost forgot. I almost forgot. Okay. We'll just get at the person, I guess. We'll DM them. Man, seems like so long ago already. All right. Well, we appreciate D&B Publishing for giving us those books and for releasing these books to our homies. We had someone in Florida, Joan, and someone in the the great state of Wisconsin. So we'll see where we're going with this next, and we will catch you guys next week. Not me, but everyone else. All right. Bye.
The key to winning big is using every little bit of knowledge to your advantage. At Oddschecker, we give you the edge. Better odds, better picks, and better offers to make you a better bettor. Why settle for less? Quickly compare the odds at every sportsbook to ensure that you're getting the best price to maximize your return. Not only that, but we have experts on every sport, from hoops and football through to soccer and boxing. Our experts analyze the form and study the stats to deliver you totally free picks and parlays. Oddschecker also highlights the most lucrative welcome offers in the industry. If you're looking to open an account, then you are eligible for hundreds of dollars in totally free bets. If you're new to legal sports betting, then we're here to help, offering simple advice to understand betting guides and updates on your state's current legislative situation. Visit us at www.oddschecker.com/US. Oddschecker, sports betting smarter.